FM.com.
Hello and welcome into the Daily Nebraskan show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I'm Ben Droz, one of the sports writers at the Daily Nebraskan, and I'm joined here by Anthony Rubik, one of the assistant sports editors at the Daily Nebraskan. And then we got Cameron King on, who just covered the Nebraska men's basketball game. And oddly enough, that is what we're going to start off with today. Big win for Nebraska at home, beat Indiana, get their first road win. I said home. Road win. Sorry, it's 11:04 people.
Felt like
My
a
bad.
home game in the first half.
It did feel like a home game. Like that's what I was like. Wait, are they at home? No. Nebraska gets their first conference road victory this season. Finally, what Nebraska fans have been clamoring for. But first of all, guys, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. It was a fun game to watch, and couldn't ask for a better result for a Nebraska fan.
Yeah, I'm excited. We finally got our first Big Ten road win. The game was good one to watch. They scared me for a second, to be honest. They scared me. It wasn't looking too good about halfway through the second, but I'm glad we pulled it out.
Yeah, didn't it feel like, this is the first thing I want to get into. Did it not feel like the Minnesota game at the start of that second half? Like, it was scary similar to that Minnesota game. It just had such the same feel. I was like, is this really going to happen again for Nebraska? And it was just so weird because Indiana shot terrible from the three-point line. And Nebraska kept up with them in the rebounding battle. Nebraska wasn't turning it over. It's like, what the heck? What's going on? Nebraska couldn't buy a bucket, though, to start that second half. I believe, what was the stat? They started off 2 for 9 from the field or something in the second half. Not good. But then Nebraska, I think, was it Indiana cut it to as close as 3 points, the lead, before Nebraska was able to blow the game open again. Nebraska gets the victory. Guys, I just want to get your first thoughts. What is your just immediate reaction to the game?
Yeah, it was a roller coaster of a second half. First half made it look like the Nebraska team that we have been seeing at home the past 2 weeks, having the 20-point lead heading into the locker room. Then again, it was like a repeat of the Minnesota game. Just couldn't make a basket to start the second half. Indiana got hot, cut the lead all the way down to 3. But in the end, it really shows how different this Nebraska team is from that Minnesota game. They were able to respond to this adversity. They were able to just shake themselves out of this little rut they were in, and they won by 15.
Cameron?
Yeah, this game, I think, to me, really highlights how hard it is to win on the road in Big Ten. At any moment, the tide can just turn. And like you said, it didn't feel like Nebraska was doing anything overtly wrong. They were still rebounding. They were still hustling. They weren't turning the ball over, but the lead just kept going away.
They just kept chipping away.
And you look up, and it's a 3-point game. Indiana is rocking now. The crowd has been silent most of the game. They're back into it. Chris Tucker's waving the Indiana flag during the timeout. It's mayhem, and you find yourself in the huddle are we about to lose this again? Are we really doing this?
I'm really intrigued to see. I want to know what Hoiberg said in one of the huddles during a timeout in that second half.
I know they talked to him post-game about it, and he said that, forget about the first half. You're at the under 12 timeout, and you're up 3 points on the road. You'd be happy at that result heading into this game. Well, yes, it came at such a weird, they were up 20, saw that lead dwindle all the way down to 3, but at the end of the day, they still had the 3-point lead on the road in the Big Ten against a team that has been sneaky. They haven't had the best year, Indiana, but they have been known for kind of building these comebacks in the second half, have been known for just fighting in the second half. And yeah, he basically said, hey, you're up 3 points. You're in a good spot. Let's just finish through now.
Yeah. Hoiberg, he's been very critical. Everyone in Nebraska, it's not like they were trying to hide that they haven't been good on the road. They openly said, we need to win on the road. And they know that. And my whole thing with the road, my biggest takeaway from this game is that the road thing, while yes, it was a big deal that Nebraska was 0-7 heading into this game on conference road games. I get that, but that Minnesota game, they were up big in the first half. Then it was just a collapse. Illinois went to overtime. That looked like an NCAA tournament game. Nebraska played Illinois hard on the road. The Rutgers game, while it was ugly, that game still went to overtime. Nebraska could have easily won that game. It was like Nebraska has had so many chances. And then second half of Northwestern, Nebraska looked pretty good. It's like, it's not like Nebraska has just looked terrible like every single game, or they haven't even come close to getting a road win. Like, they were so close so many times. I don't think it was ever a question of can they win on the road. It was just like, when was it going to happen? You knew it was going to happen at this season at some point. God forbid you'd have to wait all the way until Michigan on the road to end last game of the regular season. But Nebraska finally got the monkey off their back, beat Indiana. And what's also crazy, when I was on the show yesterday with Joseph, me and Joseph both picked Nebraska to win this game. But we were both we were not very confident in our pick. Just because it's Indiana, and Nebraska had a 7-game losing streak heading into this year against Indiana. They beat Indiana earlier in the season. It was like, are they really going to be able to beat Indiana 2 times in a row? I was like, they lost 7 straight heading this year. Are they really going to do it 2 times in a row? Yes, they did. This Nebraska team, I think they're finally going from a good team. They've been a good team this year. Even when they beat Purdue, Wisconsin, I still only thought they were a very good team. I didn't think they were a great team yet. While this win over Indiana is not something, it's going to vault them up in the rankings, I think this team is finally starting to look like a great team. What do you guys think?
I will have to pump the brakes there a little bit because
I think they're a great team.
I think they're a good team still. The problem is if the game looked like the first half and both halves, then maybe we could push them to great. But it's concerning. You lost the second half, and it's not like they got too comfortable, because this is a game you have to win. Like, you have to win. You can't lose yet another road game. You can't, like you said, wait until Michigan get a road win. Like, you're running out of opportunities here. So it's a game you knew you had to have, and to come out flat like they did in the second half and allow Indiana to just score at will for long stretches, I don't know if we can quite put them in the great tier yet.
Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, I think kind of the same. Again, they're a really good team. I think, honestly, if they were able to pull out some road games in the past, I think they'd be a great team by now. I just think it's really too late. And we've seen it once now that they were able to pull out on a road game. And even then, it shouldn't have been as close as it was. I know winning by 15 is still a great sign, but it should not have been that close in the second half. Just very flat start. And yeah, they're going to have to, they can't really afford to play like they did at the start of the second half in their games going forward. I know the games really get easier from here, except for a game at Ohio State, but Michigan is a favorable road matchup. Minnesota and Rutgers are 2 quad 3 teams at home, but Nebraska is just going to have to play a full 40 minutes. We really haven't seen that so far for them, unless they're at home, but on the road, it still is a little concerning.
It's no team, though, has been playing a full 40 minutes on the road. Even Purdue can't play a full 40 minutes on the road. This is going to be my main argument, okay? Walk with me. If Nebraska would have pulled out the win against Illinois, okay, do you consider Illinois a great team?
No.
You don't think Illinois is a great team?
Hot take. I don't think any team in the NCAA right now is a great team.
Okay, that's well true. Then this is a losing battle then for my argument. You don't think a single team's a great team? And
I mean, I don't know. Entering today, I thought Illinois was a great team. Then they blew a 14-point lead against Penn State, blew an 8-point lead in the past 30 seconds of the game.
You can't let one game dictate entire.
I don't know.
Over the whole. Okay, let's not compare like teams like how it's been in the past. Like, if you're comparing against all the teams like this year, is Illinois one of the better teams? Like, compared to everyone else, are they a great team?
They're like a 4 seed in March Madness, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Okay. Anyways, so we'll stick with it. Okay. They're a very, very, very good team. Almost great. Okay. We'll stick with that. Okay. Illinois is 4-5 on the road. Nebraska is now 2-7 on the road. If Nebraska would have beat Illinois, Nebraska would be 3-6 on the road, and Illinois would be 3-6 on the road. This is how much like the road thing just doesn't bother me, because no one has even talked about it with Illinois at all. And Illinois has been a ranked team this entire year. But Nebraska was one game away from having the same road record as Illinois.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you have to win the games. I
get it, but it was overtime game. It was an overtime game. Like, everyone is acting like this Nebraska team can't beat, like, I don't know.
I'm not saying they can't beat these teams on the road. My thing is that we haven't done it so far. Tonight was a good step towards showing that we can win on the road. But, like, my thing is, what are our goals? If our goal is to make the NCAA tournament, then I could say, okay.
It's to win an NCAA tournament game.
If you want to win the game, then you have to win the game. You can't be okay with going to overtime and losing in the tournament because then you're at home the next round. That's my
I get it, but okay, the goal of the season for Nebraska is not just to make the tournament, yes. But they got to win one. Nebraska is the only Power 5 team to not have a tournament win. Only. They're the only one. That makes them special. They're special. So there's just this is the season. This is the season. I'm not overreacting to this game at all. It was just finally getting the monkey off the back to say this team can do it. They can finally do it. We had just got a text on text line. If Nebraska beat Illinois on the road, Illinois would still have the same road record. Yeah. Well, okay, my bad. I honestly, you're right. I just my brain completely went to brain fart. Illinois is at home. Even still, okay, Nebraska they'd be what? Nebraska would be 3-6 on the road, and they'd be 4-5. Like, still, it's just it's so close. Like, I get it, but Nebraska hasn't been great on the road. I'm not saying Nebraska's been great on the road. They got stomped by Maryland, got stomped by Iowa, blew a huge lead to Minnesota, lost an ugly game to Rutgers. Like, yes, they've had road struggles, but Nebraska can win on the road. Like, it's finally decided they can win on the road. And I finally have some confidence now heading into the NCAA tournament that Nebraska can actually pull out a win because of the fact that Nebraska, I've only seen them perform and actually be able to pull it out at home. They finally did it on the road.
Yeah, I really see this game as it's a good building block. I mean, obviously the burden has been lifted. You get the win on the road, but they still have work to do in the to make the tournament. They're not a lock yet. This, again, great building block, gets them even closer now than they were before. Gets them a lot closer now than they were before, able just to get a Big Ten road win. But, there's still work to do. So that's why I'm not quite sold on them being a great team yet. A great team would have a spot in the tournament already locked up, in my opinion. If Nebraska wins out and locks up a spot in the tournament, if they go 4-1 or 3-1 the last 4 games with a loss to Ohio State, then I could probably see them as a great team. But right now, there's still some work to be done. Job is not finished.
I think Nebraska is very, very close to being a walk in the tournament. They are, because this win is finally going to give them the road win. The main thing was they can't do it on the road. They just did. I get that they haven't been doing it on the road every single time. Not too many teams in the Big Ten have been doing that. And then I know an argument for saying they're not a great team is there really even a great team in the Big Ten? Probably not. The funny thing from the laugh I had today was when Joseph posted the clip from our show yesterday, and Crane fans got mad that we thought the Nebraska win over Purdue was more impressive than the Creighton win over UConn.
It was.
What?
It was.
You said Nebraska win was more impressive? Yeah.
Easily.
I agree. It's yes, UConn is probably a better team, but everyone's Purdue sucks. Purdue has been really good during the regular season. Every year in the past 3 years. I get they just lost to Ohio State, whatever. You're letting recency bias. We're literally the number 2 ranked team in the nation. You can't say that the Purdue's not a good team, especially in the regular season. Nebraska, a team that was no business beating Purdue going into that game. Them getting that win, Creighton, there was people that were thinking Creighton could beat UConn.
They're a top 15 team. I mean, obviously Creighton, it was still an upset for sure, beating the number 1 ranked team in the country. But going into the game, it was totally different. Creighton and Nebraska. Creighton, a top 15 team in the country. A lot of people thought Creighton was going to pull out this game. Not a lot of people thought Nebraska was going to pull out that game against Purdue, especially in the fashion they did so, beating them by 16 points.
This is how many people didn't think Nebraska was going to win that game. Heading in, more people thought Nebraska football had a chance. People thought Nebraska football. There's more people that thought Nebraska football was going to beat Michigan than people thought Nebraska basketball was going to beat Purdue, which was just crazy to me. I was like, really? Like, let's slow down. You guys think Nebraska football has a better chance of being Michigan than Nebraska basketball against Purdue? No way. And it was shown because obviously basketball is a sport that's a lot more runs. I feel like, a bottom team can beat a top team in basketball easier than football. Football just physically dominate, but still, that Purdue has been one of the best regular season teams over the past few years. That was the more impressive win. But I don't even want to go into that. There's Creighton fans that were mad at us. Whatever. It's honestly fun to ruffle some Creighton feathers. Ha.
Yeah.
Anyway, so going on, Tominaga, 18 points in the first half. He only had 2 points though in the second half. If I'm not misreading that. So do you guys think that was what was your guys' take? What happened to Tominaga in the second half? Because he looked awesome in the first half. He was great. Anthony, I texted you. I was like, you texted me. You're like, Tominaga's going crazy. I was like, yeah, he's been playing awesome. What happened to Tominaga in the second half?
It looked like it was just going to be one of these historic Keisei Tominaga games, one of these master classes. He just had his way from everywhere. He was doing the ice in his veins celebration down the court. It was just fun. Second half, Indiana, they really just did not let him breathe. They were on him the entire way. I mean, Galloway, a lot of the reason why Galloway didn't do much on the offensive end was because he was gassed on the defensive end following Keisei when he was just running all around the court.
Yeah.
And Keisei wasn't getting the ball much in the second half, but I think he was still making an impact he was Indiana's top priority.
We're talking about Purdue.
On the defensive end, so much so that they had that much emphasis on him, which really allowed other Nebraska players to get open, get quality shots up.
Yeah, his gravity on the court was his biggest attribute to the team in the second half. He drew Galloway away from the rest of the players, and they got a chance to play 4-on-4, and Nebraska was just better in that situation tonight. Galloway was really in his jersey, though, as far as why Tominaga really didn't get a chance to score. Every step he took, he was right there with him, fighting over screens. You could tell that was their point of emphasis at halftime. We're not going to let him just score 30 on us and kill us like he did the first game. So, I mean, while I would like to see him score a little bit more in the second half, just him being out there on the court was beneficial enough. And what he did in the first half, it gave us enough to win tonight.
Yeah. So when I was looking at the stats, when it was a 3-point game, I was looking at the stats. I was like, how is it possibly a 3-point game? I was like, Nebraska's shooting it just as good from the field. Nebraska's shooting better from 3-point line. Indiana couldn't hit anything from deep. Nebraska wasn't turning the ball over. It's not like they were getting out-rebounded too terribly. It's like, what the heck is going on? It was free throws. Nebraska, at that point when I looked, only got to the line 6 times. And Indiana, they went to the line 18 or 19 times. Granted, neither team shot great from the free throw line. Indiana only shot 58% from the free throw line, Nebraska 64%. But it was still just Indiana was dominating the paint. They had so many points in the paint that they were getting to the line. And it was honestly slowly but surely killing Nebraska. And Nebraska finally, what did you guys think was the adjustment to finally stop? Because when I looked at when it was a 3-point game, there was only they had 19 free throws. They only had 5 free throws the rest of the way. What do you think Nebraska was doing differently on defense in the post to kind of stop Indiana from getting to the line?
Really, they didn't really change up their coverage. Really, they kind of stuck with playing the same way, and Indiana kind of helped them out. When they got back in the game, they were feeding the post. Renew and Ware were just they were killing Nebraska. Whether it would be scoring or when Nebraska sent the double like they always do, they were finding the corner shooters and they were knocking down shots, and the game got close. Indiana kind of fell in love with the 3-point line a little bit.
Which is weird because they couldn't hit anything.
Yeah, it was. They hit a couple and they just kept shooting them, and that kind of bailed Nebraska out a little bit. And that is really the reason why Nebraska was able to pull off with the game. That and the play of Lawrence in the second half.
When me and Joseph were saying X factors heading into this game. Joseph said if Mask can have a good game, Nebraska will easily beat Indiana. And I said, I agree, but is he going to be able to have a good game? This was not a game where Mask is going to have it. He wasn't set up for success. You look at it, he had 2 points. He only took 5 shots on the field. He's 0 for 2 from deep, 1 for 5 from the field. Only had 4 rebounds. Like, Mask did not have his usual night, and it's because Indiana's such a big team. Mask, when he is dominated, it's when he has the matchup. If he doesn't feel comfortable in the matchup, they're not going to go to him in the post.
Yeah, I feel like that's true, but he did have a good game against Edey.
Edey, I feel like Edey's a special case. Okay, Edey is one of the best players in the country. Don't get me wrong. Edey's awesome. But there was something about that matchup where I feel like Mask was just a little bit quicker than Edey and better with his footwork. Like, Edey on the defensive end in that game, he just looked slow.
Yeah, and Mask was able to play in space. They gave him the ball at the top of the key a lot. He facilitated the offense. And with Josiah in the game, and he started tonight, it kind of takes away Mask's ability to do that. So with him kind of mucking up the spacing a little bit, Mask tends to, you see in games where they start together, Mask normally shoots less. Or if he's shooting, it's more from the three-point line, and that doesn't always end up well.
See, there's games where I don't like that Mask is not going down in the paint, but against a team like Indiana, it just made sense. They're just such a big team. He probably wasn't going to have as much success in the post. They probably could have went to him a little bit more. I mean, only getting him 5 shots is a little weird, but not unexpected. But you want to know who my X factor for the game was? Bryce Williams. I'm looking at the stats. 18 points. While he only shot 2 from 6 from 3-point line, he had 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal and a block. Just like only 1 turnover. A big reason Nebraska was able to win this game is because they didn't turn the ball over. Imagine if Nebraska in this game only had 8 turnovers. Imagine if they had their usual 16 turnovers on the road. Nebraska when Indiana had it at a 3-point game, Nebraska would have probably been trailing by 12 or 13 then. The turnovers are a huge reason why Nebraska was able to fend Indiana off.
Yeah, it was really one of their best outings of Big Ten play turnover-wise. Only 8 on the game. And you mentioned Williams. I mean, Lawrence kind of took all the praise in the second half. He obviously had probably the best game of his career tonight.
Yeah, he played great.
Yeah, and then Williams, he was quietly also just as good.
He was good.
11 points in the second half. His ability to score on all 3 levels, that's something I really like about him. He just has a very fluid play style. And, when Nebraska needs a bucket, when Nebraska needs a shot to kind of build on their lead, put Indiana away, Williams does not shy away from that. And he is just very effective when he's not turning the ball over, which he did not today.
Yeah.
And then he had that great block at the end of the game. Just that was really kind of the dagger for Indiana, just kind of ripped their soul out right there.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the play with Williams because it's a hard thing to do. At his last school, he was a scorer. That's what he did. He scored. He put the ball in the basket. Now coming here, especially as the season's played on, Lawrence has moved to the bench. He's been asked to take on more of a facilitating role. And while he's still not the best playmaker, he only had, 2 assists tonight.
Yeah, only 2.
But the way he's running the offense and picking his spots of when to get hit. He's not just going out there pressing the gas the whole game. He's finding moments where the team needs it and scoring in those moments. And that's what's been the most impressive.
I've liked Bryce Williams because while he's technically the quote-unquote point guard, he's not – they don't need him to be an actual point guard because they have a guy named Rink Mast who they run a lot of their offense through, and they also have a lot of off-ball movement with Casey Tamanaga. It's just it's not like they need a guy that can, that needs to make the play. The only thing they need from Bryce Williams is don't turn the ball over and get to the rim. And he's been doing – because – Nebraska, when you look at this roster, doesn't have too many guys that can go downhill and get to the rim. Alex showed it one game against Northwestern, which it just was so weird that I swear it was 3 straight possessions where he went to the rim. I was like, where is this Josiah Alec been this entire year? But it's really only been Bryce Williams, the guy that can penetrate the defense and get to the rack because that's how you free up 3-point shooters. It's crazy that Nebraska's been able to get as many open shots as they have without really having a guy that can get to the rim. But Bryce Williams has been that, and he's been really good in that role when he's not turning the ball over, like you said. But with that, we have to throw it to break. When we come back, we're going to finish wrapping up men's basketball, post-game talk, and then we're going to probably talk about something else after that. We'll decide. We'll figure it out. But with that, this is the Day One Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Acres is bringing you the nation's largest indoor display of John Deere equipment and technology. Acres 2024 Ag and Turf Expo showcases everything from tillage and planting to application and harvest. We'll also offer the latest industry insights from ag professionals across the state. Join us at the Sandhills Global Event Center March 6th and 7th or Fauner Park March 21st and 22nd. Go to acres.com/expo24 for a complete schedule of speakers and activities.
Is here to keep your home's plumbing systems working properly no matter what kind of weather Nebraska throws at us. From unclogging toilets and drains to installing new water heaters and water treatment systems, John Henry's is your plumbing expert in the Lincoln and Omaha communities. Visit us at calljh.com or call
John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air,
and Electrical.
Okay, it's time to sell the house. How do we even begin to choose from the hundreds of realtors in town?
Easy. We make a pros list.
You mean a pros and cons list?
No, just a pros list. We need someone with pro photography to showcase the house in the best possible way, pro marketing to make sure we get maximum exposure, pro negotiations so we know we get the best price.
This is one of those times where you already know the right answer, isn't it?
You know it is. Ben Bleicher and Professional Realty Group.
Contact Ben Bleicher and the team at Professional Realty Group of Berkshire Hathaway's Home Services Ambassador. Online at prg-ne.com.
On the Block with Strick and Austin.
We're speaking to Husker baseball assistant Lance Harvell.
Seemed like there was a pretty heavy focus on the JUCO ranks this offseason. What went into the decision behind that approach?
There's something about junior college baseball. You know, if you've been through it, you know that life, what it's about. You number one, you got to have passion to play baseball. You gotta grind. Those guys are tough. They're playing doubleheaders, every time out. So you know kind of what you're getting.
Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Not many businesses can say they've made it 60 years, but Madsen's Bowling and Billiards can. With 12 bowling lanes and the biggest pool room in Nebraska, where else would you go to enjoy an afternoon or evening? There's a great daily specials like $2 Tuesdays, games of bowling, shoe rentals, draft beers, and tacos, all just $2 each. Have a delicious burger at EJ's Lounge before or after your bowling or pool session, and you'll leave satisfied. Madsen's Bowling and Billiards at 47th and Dudley.
With the Planet Fitness Black Card, you don't just get a great workout, you get a great perk out because your membership is packed with perks. For $1 down and $24.99 a month, you'll get perks like access to any of our 2,400 clean and spacious locations. Bring your friend anytime and both work out with tons of equipment that'll give you that big fitness energy. Relax in the Black Card spa and more. Work out and perk out with the PF Black Card. Join for just $1 down and $24.99 a month. Hurry, this deal ends soon. See Home Club for details.
My dream was to work in commercial banking, but it required a college degree and I didn't have one. I found out that Doane had classes for adult learners on the Lincoln campus and online. So I earned my bachelor's degree, and 5 months later, I landed my dream job. I decided to continue my education, and now I'm working on my MBA at Doane. For me, the Doane experience has been life-changing.
Junior Achievement of Lincoln has served the youth of our community for over 50 years.
50 years?
50 years.
They've done what for 50 years?
They've prepared students from K through 12.
K through 12?
Yeah, Junior Achievement prepares students on financial literacy and entrepreneurship work.
That's amazing.
I know. That's why when you fill up on Tuesdays, UStop will donate 2 cents of every gallon sold to the Junior Achievement of Lincoln.
Count me in.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hello and welcome back into the Daily Nebraskan show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. If you want to text in the show, the text line is open 402-464-5685. But with that, we're going to kind of move the conversation to maybe a little bit more away from the game and what this game means rest of the season for Nebraska. So Nebraska gets their first conference road win. How much do you think this moves the needle for Nebraska as an NCAA tournament team?
I think it's huge. It makes them the only team that it takes them away from being the only team that had like the real black eye on their record. Like
out of all the top teams.
Yeah, of all the top teams. Like we had the one that the committee looks at and like they have no road wins in conference. Like that's it. It gets us out of that conversation. So I think it's a big step. I think now realistically we're about 2 wins. I said another road win and the home win against Ohio State. I think that gets us decisively in the tournament before the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah. Nebraska has four games left. Minnesota at home, Ohio State on the road, Michigan on the road. Am I forgetting one?
Rutgers at home.
Rutgers at home. That's the one I'm forgetting. Nebraska needs to go 3-1 down that stretch. I said yesterday they need to go 4-1. They can afford one more loss. The Ohio State game, if they lose that, be really nice to win. But as long as they get one of these next 2 road wins, they'd have 3 road wins. I mean, not great, but it's doable. Other teams have gotten in with only that many without many road wins. The Minnesota game at home, though, it's kind of intriguing to me because even though I'm very confident in the game because it's at home and Nebraska's been almost unbeatable at home outside of the Creighton game very early in the season, and I will still fight anybody that if this played again, it'd be a very close game. Nebraska, it still feels like a game that it could be very close, this Minnesota game coming up, just because Minnesota's I feel like they're kind of a bigger team, scrappier team, and there's a reason that Nebraska didn't just collapse in that second half all because of themselves. It was things that Minnesota was doing as well. So, Cameron, what do you think? What are you kind of expecting in this next game against Minnesota?
To be honest, this is one. If I'm a Huskers fan, I'm a little bit scared. I'm a little bit.
Even though it's at home,
because Minnesota plays a brand of basketball that travels.
Yeah,
they're physical. They get to the boards, and they're gonna make the game. They're gonna make the refs call the game. Like the refs are gonna have to blow the whistle, and as there's only so many fouls the refs are gonna call. So when you have a team like Minnesota who's playing into that on the road, especially, they can make the game really tough and really close. And it's just one I would personally like to see the Huskers come out and take what happened in Minnesota personally. If they remember what happened, remember that they were up so many points and they let Minnesota come back and basically steal the game from them, I think they should be in good shape at home. But if they come out like they did in the second half against Indiana, or just how they sometimes do at home, where they just
they started off slow and even at home.
It's a home game. We're gonna roll them, and if we don't, the crowd gets back into it. It can make a long night.
One reason I'm kind of confident against that though was that Penn State game. I feel like the Michigan game, Michigan and Penn State, those were both games that I kind of felt like Nebraska. I just had a feeling Nebraska was going to kind of fall a little bit behind early, but Nebraska just, especially in that Michigan game, just came out right away on fire. And that gave me so much confidence because I really hadn't seen that from them, even at home. Like Nebraska is always a team that they seem like kind of a little bit lackadaisical when they first come out of the game. Then 6-8 minutes into the game, then Nebraska's finally rolling. And then beginning second half, it's always like, whoa, what's happening? And then Nebraska pulls it out at home. So this Minnesota game is definitely going to be interesting. I want to say that it's going to be a tough game for Nebraska, but still, it's just like there's nothing that's been shown this year at home that makes me think that Nebraska's going to lose this game. There's just nothing. Nebraska has just been so good at home. So good. But I want to more also go into not like, don't take in like, I don't want to be like, oh, this team cannot finally win on the road. Yes. How do you view this team, this Nebraska team, any differently? What if they make the NCAA tournament? Does this game change your mind of how well you think they can do in the tournament, or is this game not really affect too much for that for you guys?
The Indiana game or the Minnesota?
This Indiana game.
Indiana game. I think it does change my mind a little bit more, just their ability to get it done on the road. But then there's also 2 road games left, and I'm very interested to see how they play in those games. And those would really give me my opinion on this team. Ohio State, again, despite their record, it's a quad 1 game. They're a talented team. It's going to be one of the hardest, probably the hardest game remaining on Nebraska's schedule, with it being in a road environment. You saw what happened to Purdue when they went to Columbus this past weekend. And then Michigan is kind of the complete opposite. Michigan has a losing record at home this year.
That's not even going to be a road game, though. That stadium is going to it's going to be empty. Michigan's already given up on the season. Michigan's already given up on the season. This is what Joseph was saying. They've already given up on the season. Howard might be fired by the time Nebraska actually plays them. Like, is that even going to be considered a road game? Stadium, it's going to be empty. That arena's going to be empty.
Yeah, these 2 games, I think those games are going to tell a lot about this team. Indiana game tonight told me a lot, as they blew the first half lead, but were able to overcome that and able to win in very convincing fashion. So I'm just very interested to see them in these last 2 road games.
I kind of like, despite like this might ruffle some feathers, but I kind of like that Indiana came back a little bit and then Nebraska showed fight. I kind of like that because when Nebraska's been tested on the, I hadn't really seen Nebraska whenever they've been tested on the road. They've fallen a little bit short. You know, the Rutgers game, that was a test. Even though how ugly of a game it was still like, can they pull it out? Didn't. The Illinois game, when they were tested down, Nebraska played good, but they just couldn't pull that Illinois game out. The Minnesota, when they were being tested, oh my gosh, Minnesota's coming back. Is Nebraska going to be able to stop it, or are they just going to continue to let it bleed? I honestly kind of like that Nebraska was tested a little bit in that second half, because if it would have just been like a blowout win, it would have been like, oh, it would have been great for a road win, but it's like, I still want to see how this team can perform under pressure on the road. And that was kind of the big thing with this, is that Nebraska performed when they needed to on the road under pressure. 3-point game at one point. Nebraska was able to get it done. I think that was my biggest takeaway for how I'm viewing this team heading into the tournament, is that because every NCAA tournament game, even round of 64, there's pressure. It's going to be close. So I like that Nebraska was able to handle pressure outside of PBA.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Joseph. Like, I agree. It was a good sign that they handled it, but I want to see. I need to see it again. Just one isn't a big enough sample size of them being able to do it on the road. I think a lot of what happens in the tournament will be dependent on matchups. I think certain teams are just bad fits for the way Nebraska plays, but they're starting to show it. Like, they're starting to show that they can do it, and fans have reason to be optimistic.
I don't know. I feel like Nebraska is kind of a team that I feel like they can beat anybody. I'm not saying if they would play UConn, they'd beat UConn. I'm not saying that they would. I'm saying they can. This is a team, I don't feel like there's any particular team that's like, oh man, like that's a really scary matchup. Like, obviously you want to play a team that's lower ranked, but like, it's not like there's a certain high ranked team. I'm like, oh man, don't play them. I'd rather play this higher ranked team. Like, Nebraska has played teams of all shapes and sizes this year. Beat Purdue, a bigger team. Beat Wisconsin, a team that's kind of fast paced. Beat Indiana, just a completely big team that doesn't shoot three. Like, they've seen it all this year. And I feel like the bigger lineup, I feel like Hoiberg has some flexibility with his lineup. If he needs to go big, he can, which he's been going. But like, if he's going against a team that's really fast, that can shoot that like flies around the court, maybe he goes back to a smaller lineup. I mean, I just like, I feel like Nebraska is a team that, because of how deep they are, they're very flexible. And I feel like they can match up with anybody.
Yeah, Nebraska has depth that teams in Lincoln in the past just haven't had. They have a luxury of having several different guys who could go off on any night. You saw it in the first half today. It was Keisei Tominaga and Juwan Gary. Second half, Jamarcus Lawrence, Bryce Williams. Then, of course, you got Rank Mass who can go off, Josiah Alec every once in a while. Then complimentary guys off the bench, Sam Hoiberg. CJ Wilcher's kind of been in this cold streak, but you've seen it before. The Wisconsin game, really the last 10 games before that, he was probably the hottest hand on the team. So, yeah, there's just a whole lot of different guys who can step in, step up. And, yeah, the big lineup has been working right now. But then you have guys like Jamarcus Lawrence, Sam Hoiberg, who bring in that energy off the bench, a kind of small ball approach. It could really just match up against anyone.
I agree. I think they're capable of beating anybody. They have this, especially because of their depth, flexibility, and their shooting. They're shooting that it can put them in any game.
You have to be able to hit threes if you're in March Madness. You just have to.
Yeah, it can put them in any game, but it could also lose them in the game. We've seen games where they come out and the shot's not really falling for Keisei or Wilcher, and then it's kind of those games, they're real struggles, and against better teams, better, bigger teams have the opportunity to take advantage of bad Nebraska shooting nights. To where those are games, I would say, those are probably the only games we can't win. If we don't shoot it well and we're playing a team like Purdue.
That's like a bigger team, yeah.
Yeah. Then I think that game you're asking a lot from this roster to go and win that game. And it's possible in the tournament that we face one of those teams, especially as a lower seed. That's why I wish we would have won more road games earlier this year so we could just get a couple seed lines higher. But it's tough. I think we definitely can beat any team, though. It's going to come down to the matchup and how good we shoot it on that night.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned. Like, there's not really a single team in college basketball that I'm really scared of. I'm just from Nebraska. There's just really not. Like, Creighton scares me just like because they play very similar to Nebraska, but they just play better. They're like better at what Nebraska does. So, like, honestly, I'd be more scared of playing like a Creighton, even though, they're not like a top 5 ranked team or whatever, which they might be we'll have to see after they beat UConn. We'll see where they're ranked. But, a team like Creighton scares me a little bit more than, like a Purdue or like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but there's still not too many teams that like I'm scared of. It's like, oh man, Nebraska, there's no way they can beat them. Like, Nebraska is just such a team that if they get off in the 3-point line, they can beat anybody. And that's why this team has a chance to go really far. I don't want to say really far in tournament. They can get a tournament win or two. Probably anything past Sweet 16 is just being super hopeful just because Nebraska. Wouldn't it be crazy really though if Nebraska going into the tournament without a single tournament win in its history makes it to like the Elite Eight? Wouldn't that just be so crazy? But anyways, yeah, it's going to be interesting. So Nebraska's, sorry to cut you off, but Nebraska still has a chance though with the Big Ten tournament to jump up in the rankings. Like, and that's why the Big Ten tournament's going to be a big deal. And, Nebraska, this road win finishing strong down the stretch to, maybe get that first round bye or whatever, is going to be big because if Nebraska does just like flame out and lose their very first game of the Big Ten tournament, they're still probably getting to the NCAA tournament, but like they're going to be very low, like bubble, and it's going to be tough. But if Nebraska can make a little bit of the run Big Ten tournament, maybe they can get to like a 6 seed or a 7 seed. There's a chance for them to get there.
Yeah, I think this win, that's a sneaky underrated part about tonight's win is that it pushes them closer to the double bye line.
Yeah.
And they have the tiebreaker over Michigan State. So
yeah,
if you keep winning down the stretch, I like our chances better, especially if we can get a lower seed in the tournament of getting that one tournament win. But you said something just a second ago that I want to put to the test just a little bit.
Okay.
So you say you're not scared of any team.
There's some teams that are scarier than others, obviously, but like there's not a single team that I'm like, there's no way Nebraska can beat them. That's where I want to put. I want to put it like that.
Okay, so I'm gonna run through a couple, and you just let me know how scared you are.
Okay.
UConn, number 1, UConn.
If Nebraska gets faced up with UConn, that's just a little unfortunate. But like, I still feel like if Nebraska would shoot like 48% for 3-point line, it'd be a close game. I'm just saying, like, this is a team if they get half from 3-point line with this bigger lineup, especially like this is why I've liked the bigger lineup, because even in games where Nebraska shot well from 3-point line, they always got out rebounded. It's a team that struggled with turnovers. So even if they do shoot really well, it would always still like those two things would always hurt them. With this bigger lineup, they've been better rebounding team. So that's why I'm feeling this way more now.
Okay. How about Houston? Pressure the ball, scores.
Who has Houston beat?
Okay, that's the point.
Who has Houston beat? Everyone's going to pick. You know what? I'm not having Houston make it out. They're not making it to the Sweet 16. I'll just put it there. Like Houston, they haven't played. I'm putting the camera on me. Houston has not beat a single good team in this every single year. Nebraska has a better resume than them.
What about Iowa State they just beat? 6th ranked team.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't. Anyways, continue yours.
Okay. So we have North Carolina. Bigs, have shooters.
That would be a really interesting game. If Nebraska would play North Carolina, okay, I actually want that matchup. That just be not like, I just want to see how that would play. Wouldn't it be so like, this is what was interesting. So this is different show on the block. They had a discussion. Would Nebraska fans rather beat Creighton in the tournament or Kentucky? Because Kentucky is kind of like, the blue blood, like one of the best college basketball programs ever, but Creighton's Creighton. So that's why fun. Northwestern kind of, not Northwestern, North Carolina would intrigue me if they play them. It's like, because if Nebraska would beat a North Carolina, that'd be like so big. Like North Carolina is one of the best college basketball programs. So I don't know. That'd be such a weird matchup. Just be so weird. Anyways.
You just brought them up. How about Kentucky?
Again, this is like those ACC teams. This is like those ACC teams never play the Big Ten teams. So it's just like, it's a completely different style. It's just like, so like, I don't know. It'd just be so weird to see how that'd be matched up. I don't know. It's not like I'm going to say, oh, there's no way they can beat a Kentucky. That's what I'm saying. They can beat anybody. They can.
They can beat anybody.
I'm not saying they're going to. I'm saying they can.
All right, give me a percent. Put a percent on it.
A percent.
Percent chance that they beat.
So if they beat match up against like Kentucky. Okay, because that's actually, there was a bracketology that had Nebraska against Kentucky. So we'll use that one because that's actually like kind of realistic. If Nebraska would play Kentucky, I would say, man, I want to say like 60-40 towards Kentucky or like 65-35. That's where I'd put it. Like, obviously, Kentucky's going to be favored. Obviously. But like, there's a decent chance that Nebraska gets hot from the 3-point line and they could beat them.
Yeah, that's a matchup that it's interesting to me. I like both teams, but I can see Nebraska pulling it out just because Kentucky's a young team. Young teams sometimes struggle in the tournament, but
yeah,
that's like another team, kind of like what you said about Creighton. They're similar to Nebraska in a lot of ways. That game is getting in the hundreds. That game is going to be
hundreds.
It's a high scoring game, but I just don't know that those type of matchups scare me if I'm a Nebraska fan because
honestly, yeah. If I was gonna pick, if I was to pick a matchup that like what's the scariest? A team like Creighton or Kentucky that plays very similar to Nebraska, because I feel like the way Nebraska beats teams is that they beat the slower teams that can't shoot the ball that well, and they just light up from 3-point line. Like like a Purdue plays differently than Nebraska. Nebraska just hits a bunch of threes. You can beat a team like that. With Creighton, how likely is it that you're going to outshoot them out of the gym? Not very likely. So you're going to have to outplay them in other facets of the game, and it's just probably not going to happen.
Yeah, and that comes back kind of what I said earlier. I feel like it's a how the shooting is on that night because you're going to have to score to beat a team like that. And some nights they can, but we've seen on nights they've struggled at points. Like tonight, they went on a scoring drought of 3+ minutes of just not scoring, and against teams like that, that could be the death.
Yeah, I'm not saying Nebraska's going to the Elite Eight. I'm not saying they're going to beat 3 teams like that in a row. I'm saying they can beat a team like that in round 1 to get an NCAA tournament win.
Yeah, but you said you're not scared of anybody.
I'm not. They can beat anybody. I don't care who they're matched up against. I really don't.
You're saying bring on UConn, bring on North Carolina.
Okay, obviously there's other teams I'd want to play other than them, but I'm saying Nebraska can beat those kind of teams, though. They can.
So if you have to cherry pick a matchup for the first round of the NCAA tournament, who would you want Nebraska to play?
Purdue.
Purdue?
Purdue has had almost as much success as Nebraska in the NCAA tournament in the last 3 years. And Nebraska hasn't even made the tournament. So with that, we got to throw it to break. We're going to throw it to break off of that. And when we come back, we'll wrap up the show and finish Nebraska men's basketball talk. You're listening to the Daily Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Alcohol has strained our relationship. Drinking too much can cause harm to friends, family members, and loved ones. By drinking less, we will save our relationship. If you or a loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
Are you working in or looking to get into the electrical construction industry? The electrical workers of Local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeymen and apprentices and are offering great pay and benefits. Call Mike at 402-875-1034 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
Mosaic is a nonprofit, whole-person healthcare organization that embraces God's call and relentlessly pursues opportunities that empower people with diverse needs to live their best lives. Mosaic in Southeast Nebraska, serving Lincoln and Beatrice, would like to invite you to their monthly Discover the Possibilities tour events. Events are held on the third Wednesday of every month and are a great way to understand Mosaic's mission. To RSVP, please contact Melindy at 402-429-0088 or visit mosaicinfo.org/Southeast Nebraska. Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstoRats.com for amazing offers. And if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
Liberty Law Group is committed to the defense of liberty for those accused and the pursuit of justice for those injured. Liberty Law Group's relentless trial attorneys specialize in criminal defense and personal injury law. We believe in treating every client with respect, compassion, and understanding. We know that navigating the legal system is stressful and overwhelming, but Liberty Law Group will carry that burden for you. When you're facing legal issues, make the right call. 877-42-LIBERTY. That's 877-42-LIBERTY.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now, they've raised wages again, and they're hiring for production operators at $24.62 per hour, which grows to $28.97 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $33.36 per hour, with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or apply, go to continentaljobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Hi everyone, Kendall Warnock, A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. The last few years have been wild, but we've been here for you through all the ups and downs, and we'll be here for you when you need us the most, for all your travels and for your day-to-day driving. With winter conditions causing problems all over town, the last thing anyone needs this year is constant car troubles. Let us help you drive in peace and make sure you drive to work and to winter destinations safe. A1 Automotive, 11th and L Street downtown, always honest answers.
Hey, it's Chad with the Nutrition Authority, inviting you to stop in and check out the all-new Complete Post-Workout Recovery, CPR. CPR is ideal for anyone who works out or competes and wants to maximize results. CPR can only be found at Nutrition Authority. Stop in today and try a free sample or visit us at mynutritionauthority.com. Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started. 93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and must wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the K&TK Studios, 1040 O Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeit.
Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to the Daily Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. One last segment before we wrap things up. It's going to have to be a quick segment. I kind of want to, we can go in a little bit into, we're not going to really talk NBA, but NBA All-Star Weekend was just happened. My brain just went dead there. Just happened. So with that, Cameron just did an article on Hustlers in the NBA, and for the first time in it feels like a while, Nebraska actually has, I'm not going to say a lot, but they actually have a few players that are actually playing substantial minutes actually in the NBA. Like Nebraska's been lucky to actually have one player just having minutes. There's actually like a few players that are actually getting pretty significant minutes. Cameron, if you want to kind of go more into it.
Yeah, for the first time in a long time, Nebraska has some NBA alumni. We have more than just one, too. Like we have two players that are solidly in NBA rotations at the moment.
Bryce McGowan.
We have Bryce McGowan's first. He's struggled to get opportunities at some points during this year, but recently he scored double digits in the last three or four games. So is Delano Blanton, who recently got traded from the Celtics, where he really wasn't seeing any opportunity at all. To be honest, he just wasn't getting any time.
It's the Celtics.
But, yeah, now he's been traded to Portland. They're bad. They're really bad.
That's an understatement.
Don't watch them unless it's to watch Blanton. They're bad. But he's actually had a string of really good games going into the All-Star break. He scored double digits in his last 3 or 4 games as well. So these are two guys that they look to have some opportunities going forward with these teams as long as they don't get drafted over come the summer. So as long as they keep their production up, they should be able to get roster spots going forward for next year and start making their way towards the starting lineup. It's a little ways away, but it's possible.
With that, do you think there's any player on Nebraska's roster right now that can actually make it in the NBA? I know Casey Tominaga is probably the first name that comes to mind, but first of all, I don't even know if he's actually going to try to go NBA, if he's going to try to go back to home country or not. But like, let's say everybody's like really wants to make the NBA. Do you think who do you think on Nebraska's roster can actually make it NBA?
I think Juwan Gary and Bryce Williams are the two players that they could play in an NBA game. They might not be very productive, but they belong on it. They would look like they belong at least on the NBA court.
Yeah. I think the same. And then I think Casey, he'll give it a shot. I mean, he got a tryout or like a scouting tryout with the Pacers last summer when he was testing NBA waters. That's been a dream of his. I see him at least being around for a team summer league roster, maybe probably not making a training camp there, but maybe sticking around in the G League for a year. But he'll definitely, even if it doesn't pan out in the NBA, he'll be a star in China. He already is now. And yeah, he's somebody that might not get a chance, but he will try and he will work for one.
Yeah, I think if he gets hot in summer league, he can maybe earn an Exhibit 10 deal where he gets with a G League team, and I think that would be something to watch for. I think he could light a league like the G League up.
We'll have to see. Maybe NCAA tournament is a way to get on the radar of NBA teams. So if Nebraska can make any kind of a run in the NCAA tournament, and Tominaga's dropping 30-point game after 30-point game, he's gonna have to get looked at. He was one of the best players in the Big Ten. Just with that recognition, you're going to have some teams looking at you. Is it actually going to translate for him to be able to get there? I feel like anybody that can hit the ball, hit 3-pointers, they have a chance to make the NBA. Like Tominaga, I'm just saying, if he's a 40% 3-point shooter in the NBA, it doesn't matter if you can't play defense. There's a spot for you.
Steph Curry do it.
Yeah, well, Steph Curry's not
Seth.
Seth. I said Steph.
Seth Curry do it.
It's like Steph.
Not Steph.
With that, thank you for listening to the Daily Nebraska Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Me and Joseph will be back tomorrow. We're going to preview the next men's basketball game against Minnesota. All that more is going to be tomorrow. Same time, 11 to 12. But with that, we're out of here. Peace.
Attention all Wings fans.